how much storage space we have. About 80 gigs. Should be good. 16 gigs on the C drive. I really need a new drive, man. I really need a new extra drive. But we'll get to that when we get to that. The chat's not opening, so do give me a quick moment to take care of that real quick. Is it this chat window? It's not that chat window, it's the other chat window. We're gonna get the chat window open at some point, and surely it's going to connect this time. Surely. Okay. Chat's connected. Actually, good point. Is my uploading done? My uploads are all done, so that shouldn't be impacting the stream anymore. That's all good. We're starting a little bit earlier today, so there's that as well. Hopefully today my internet won't die like 50 times halfway through. That would be fucking ideal if that didn't happen, but we'll see. Other than that, I think we're pretty much good to get going. Let me just check how like the latest TikTok video is doing. It's just about average. Okay, start recording. We're back with Unreal R2D stuff. Last time we wasted a whole bunch of time on trying to make this card widget blueprint scalable. And I did a little bit of research. And I did a little bit of experimentation, and I think the conclusion that I have come to is that I shouldn't want it to be able to scale in that way. That's kind of what I've come to, if I'm being 100% honest with you, because I've got this like new widget here, right? And this is fairly simply, this is a wrap box inside of a scroll box, and that has, just for testing purposes, a whole bunch of these cards in it. And these cards are just like aligned to work at this exact resolution. If I try to make them any bigger, which I don't know if I can do that in here, I don't think I can, but if I just plug in a widget blueprint card 1 and I just say, hey, I want one of those to exist in my canvas panel here, they're still fucked, right? I still can't scale this up. It only works at this exact resolution. And if I want them to be bigger, I just scale them up like this, which is a little annoying. Or if I want them to be smaller, for that matter. Which is a little bit annoying because when I use things like this wrap box, it still uses the scaling from the original sizing. And the like translation, positioning and stuff. But that's kind of just what we're going to have to deal with. That's just how this is going to work. And that's just what we're going to do. there's nothing more to it. So I did make this off screen. We're going to get rid of the original widget blueprint card so that we can change the name for widget blueprint card 1 just back to widget blueprint card so that this is the proper one. And going from here, now we can actually start working on some of the stuff as to set up this card. Because right now, what we have is just this card, which is not exactly what we want. What we want is we want to we don't actually need a scale value here anymore, actually. What we want is to open up these two text blocks. Let's actually give them names. Card name, and then we also have card text. And let's give them default values as well. Why won't we? And I'll give them a different font in a moment as well. Card text. I probably should get like a lorem ipsum thing going on. Hello, that's my streaming dashboard. I don't think that's too important. So that's lorem ipsum, whatever, right? Where can I get the full copy paste for that? There we go. That's the one I need. So card text, the full thing is going to be like all that, and this is the annoying thing, right? Because How do I set this to automatically like wrap to the next line? Because that was the one thing that I was pleasantly surprised by, that a text element in Godot just kind of did that for you. Unreal text auto wrap to next line. Might just be that I'm using a normal text thing and I need to check auto wrap text. You know, that might just probably auto wrap text. There we go. That makes a lot more sense. I think this should probably be in a scroll box of its own, now that I think about it. So let's try to put that in there. If we put this into a scroll box instead, now we can make the scroll box a different size. Right. Or do we need to make this a different size? There's something here where I can set a size, I'm sure. Auto. I just don't know if it's the text or the... I think it's in the scroll box, if I look for size. Maybe not. Like this is a good start, but I still want it to be a little bit smaller. I guess we'll have to figure it out. Maybe that's because that needs to then be in a size box first. So we have a size box in which we have a scroll box in which we have the text. This is why I fucking hate Unreal's UI design. Because I think this is the way that you're like supposed to do it, but we'll make do. Can we get rid of? I think that's the thing from the scroll box. Like, I think we have a thing here that's casting a shadow, which is probably just called drop shadow. Top shadow, bottom shadow. Can we just like tint this to alpha none? And will that just get rid of it? That does. Or we can just shadow Y. Oh, there we go. And then we also do that with the left shadow and the left and the right shadow probably doesn't matter, but we'll get rid of them as well. So if we just copy over this to there, there, and there, now there shouldn't be any shadowing, but we do have a scroll bar, which is nice. What did I miss? I missed a couple of weeks. What happened to the big floating skeleton Scythe Lord? We kind of finished it. As in, there's still some things to do, but we kind of finished that boss fight. There's actually a video up on the channel right now. It's the latest video, discounting the short that went up today. This is a video from yesterday that recaps the entire thing from start to end. Talking about all the things that I fucked up, all the things that went well, all the things that we learned along the way. And we're just gonna like put that boss fight to the side for the time being. I'm working on a little bit of a side project now for the next video that I'm going to be making. And then once we're done with this, which should be like this week and maybe next week, and then we'll probably be finished with this little side project. Once that's all done, we'll get back to the main project. And we'll probably do like a couple of streams of level design block out stuff. That said, though, I say it's finished. It is finished as in there's a rough version of it now. There's still a lot of polishing that needs to be done, but right now what I'm doing is mostly I'm working on getting a rough version of a lot of content, and then I'm going to go over and polishing things up. And I'm doing that for a couple of reasons, because it makes me feel like I'm making more progress. And also, if I go through doing something in like a rough pass a couple of times, I feel like I'm gonna get better at doing the actual polishing once I've done a rough version of a boss fight a couple of times, right? So I've done 2 boss fights now for this game in a rough pass. That's the knight and that's the skeleton. And if I do like 2 more dungeons with 2 more boss fights that are going to be very rough, then I can go back over and start fine-tuning things a little bit better, because I'll have more of an idea as to where things are lacking or where problems are popping up consistently, rather than really focusing in on this one dungeon now and like getting it publication ready and then moving on. And if I move on to the next dungeon, there's always going to be something that I feel like I want to go back to the previous one. So if that's always going to be the case, I might as well just move on to the next one and then kind of work on the entire game in like passes, right? So right now we're working still on a very rough like block out pass, and then we're going to be refining it, and then we're going to do another refinement, and at some point we're going to cut that off and things need to be released. But that's like a while away for now. So that's the plan. And in between, sometimes doing a little bit of side projects can be fun. So that's what we're doing right now. We're doing a 2D game because I am insane. Okay, so what I was actually doing here is we have this entire thing, which is neat. We're going to add in a variable here, which will be the card resource. And that will be of type card assets. I call it resource because that's what it was called in Godot. It's called card assets. Sometimes you need to step away. No, yeah, I think stepping away is one of the most important things to do. And that's also kind of why I think I talked about this a little bit in the past. I'm going to implement like mini games in every single one of the dungeons, and I'm actually changing that idea from mini games to like small genre meshes, right? Where you play a little bit of a different genre. Like one of the dungeons that I want to like do one room that's effectively just a twin stick shooter in the middle of an action RPG. And that's because I think it's fun. One of my favorite Kingdom Hearts games, it's a very unpopular opinion, is Kingdom Hearts Recoded, because it does do that. I really personally do like it when that happens. Just an entirely different genre just suddenly pops up in the middle of your game, right? But it's also fun to work on because it gives me something to do as a side project inside of the actual bigger project. That's not what this is, obviously, but that's part of my strategy to keep motivated and keep going with this project as well. Well, not with this project, but with the Action RPG project, which still does not have a name. I need to start really getting a name in place at some point, because at some point I'm going to need to make a Steam page for this fucking thing. Get card... What do we call it? Get name, maybe? What even did we call... I'll get back to reading chat in a moment. I'm just confusing myself. Card name, card text. Are they not public values? They're not blueprint exposed values. That is what the issue is. I think. Do you find it difficult to manage both YouTube and game dev at the same time, or do you feel like it helps you consistent making a little bit of both? If I did just a YouTube channel, I wouldn't have enough like actual game development going on to probably come up with enough content. That being said, like a lot of the content that I make, like the Material series right now and before this, the Inventory series, have nothing to do with what I'm currently working on in the game itself. So sometimes it informs the content, sometimes it doesn't. But I do think that it bounces back and forth between like when I'm doing something in my game, and I figure something out, I learn something, I come up with something, I can then use that to make content off of. And sometimes I'm like, I want to make content on something, and it actually like forces me to learn a skill or like develop a skill, and that then comes back to help me in actual development. So they do kind of strengthen each other. They do also at the same time cannibalize time from each other. Like if I was only doing the game, I probably would be. I probably would have a rough draft of the entire game by now, instead of like a dungeon and a bit. So it does slow down game development, and the same with the YouTube channel to a certain extent. Like if I wasn't also developing, but at this point, like 90% of the things that I do for development, I do on stream, because I just literally don't have the time to do a lot of development off stream. Because I also have a job at the same time, so it's kind of rough sometimes. Okay, card asset is okay. So this is a U property, edit defaults only. This should be blueprint read only as well. So blueprint blueprint fucking read only. There we go. That's what we want. Let's just copy that over real quick. So that is all that. I don't think... We probably want that to be blueprint read. I'm gonna make this one read right for the rarity, because there's every chance that I want to like procedurally in blueprint at some point assign a rarity value to something. I'm not sure that I will, but let's just pretend like I do. And then the card asset for the card slot is probably also going to... That's a good question. Let's make that read right as well, just in case. And then this is just an enum declaration. Okay, that's cool. Let's make sure that everything is saved before we F5 the hell out of this. Hello everybody joining in. There is an issue somewhere, apparently. Card asset, line 20. Oh, there's a double comma there. That, yeah, doesn't like that. What English accent do you have? What English accent don't I have? That's a valid question. Should not be on private members. That's fair. Let's make them public then. Yeah, I feel like my accent is a little bit of a mishmash of literally every accent under the sun. So, what the hell? Cannot expose property to blueprints in a struct that is not a blueprint type. Oh yeah, no, that actually that does make sense. That does make sense. Yeah. Now what is the issue? This is one of the makefile issues again, right? It's because this thing is still fucking open, so I need to compile through Rider. I keep forgetting that it wants me to do that. Because I'm so used to just opening this up through the Epic Launcher instead. But if you want to use it with Rider, you actually gotta like build it initially from Rider and open it up that way. Which is fine, it's just something that I keep forgetting to do. Okay, now that we have that in place, let's go back into here, because now we have this card asset and we can get card name. That's what I did all this for. Okay, and then card asset, we can also get card text. While we're at it, we want to... Oh, that's a good question. Image resolution. Don't know about that, but we'll see. Can I just like set image? No, we have to set brush from texture. I think that'll work. Okay, we get card image. That is a texture, right? But that's a texture 2D. Does it need a texture 2D? This needs a texture 2D. What's the difference between a texture and a texture 2D? Like if I go back in here and I say, hey, this thing doesn't take in a texture, it takes in a texture 2D instead. And I just like patch that in real quick. Does that then, like, I can still just put in literally any texture that I want. So I don't fully know what the... Yeah, this is going to be an issue. I don't fully know what the difference is between a texture and a texture 2D, but now I think this just works, right? Well, aside from the fact that it's a live coding value, I think. But get image. This now is a texture 2D, right? So yeah, now that does work. So that's kind of all we need. And this should now, yeah, create an empty card. But if I set the card asset default value real quick to the dragon card, because it's literally the only card we have, we are back with dragon, big dragon, much fire, and the dragon image. So now if I make a second dragon asset, for instance, so if we go back into cards, basic back, and I make dragon card 2, and this one we give big meanie dragon boy. He gon' burn ya. Something like that, right? If we now change the value for card assets, the default value that is, to dragon card 2, we see big meanie dragon boy, he gon' burn ya. So that means that this works. And now for every single one of like these, and this is the wonderful thing, right? Because just for like testing purposes, I'm going to now make this instance editable real quick. If we go into my new widget here, we can set a different dragon for, or a different card rather. We only have the dragon image at the moment. For each individual card very, very easily. So we effectively have a working inventory. And I did set, and I did do this off screen, so I'll probably show this. I did set up a debug key, which just spawns in a widget and adds it to the viewport, and it's the inventory widget. So we now have a way to open up our inventory with all of our cards in it. I just realized that the... Okay, this is kind of annoying. Let me open zoom it so that you guys can see. Because the dragons or the card's image seems to be 1 pixel too low. So I need to fix that. But it's not a big deal. Should be pretty easy to fix. But let's see. So the way we do that would be... which one even is the image? Where? It's this one, right? Yeah, so this one just needs like literally 1 pixel more to the top. And that fixes it, I think. Still not quite. That might just also be a size thing, though. I might just want the size to be like what? Let's set it to 120. Oh no, that's just... Yeah, 120. That's good. So 120 by 120. Yeah, let's do that. So now it fills the entire thing properly. Okay, with that in place, let's start thinking about some mechanics again. Because what we want to do is I want to make the chest actually work. The chest... for right now, anytime I open the chest, I think I'm just going to have it randomly generate like 5 cards or something like that. But for that, we need to have an inventory component. So let's make an inventory component that I can just put on the chest. That makes more sense, I think. And then we can also, instead of what we're doing right here, we can what we're doing right here was just displaying a couple of random cards. Well, not random. We can actually give the player inventory components as well. So let's make one new C++ class. We make a... I was going to say an inventory component, but no, that's what we are making. That's going to be a child of the actor components. And that's a utility, actor components? Huh. That's not what we're going to need, but I probably should look into that. That seems useful. And this will be the inventory components. It seems like the noises outside have died down a little bit, so I'm going to open a window. I just had some things from my oven, so it's a little hot in here. And I'm back. Okay, cool. So inventory component. Why did Rider open and then close down again? That's weird. So the inventory component, what is it going to need? First and foremost, its CPP file is going to move over there. Initially, all that this is going to need, I think, there's going to be much simpler than the inventory component that we made for the inventory series. That first and foremost. Really, all that this needs is it needs to have a T array of type struct. What did we call it again? It's in the card asset, I think. F-card slots. So F-card slots. And we'll just call this cards. And okay, so now we're gonna get to the reason that I moved into Unreal away from Godot. Also, you can see I have my stuff. I have Copilot again. I'm so happy. I'm not actually going to use it for that, but U property, let's say add it anywhere. Blueprint, read, write, sure. So with that, we can now do a marvelous thing indeed. We can do something fantastic. We can save everything and relaunch Unreal, because we just made a pretty big adjustment, or an addition rather. Because what we can do is we have an array with a struct on it that is exposed to the editor. The very thing. Why aren't you building? The fuck do you mean? Yeah, no, so that I'm forward declaring it, but I'm not actually declaring it in here. So I guess it just needs to actually exist within the includes for this, which makes sense because we can just include the card asset. Thank you very much, Copilot. You actually did your job for once. Okay, so it works. So yeah, this was the very thing that drove me insane when trying Godot, right? I wanted to make a struct to make an array out of, so that I could have an array where I can say, hey, in your inventory, you have this card of this rarity. And that struct, all it was going to do is have a reference to a card asset and a enum type that just is like your rarity. Apparently, you can't expose structs to the editor in Godot, which kind of messed me up real bad. And what I just did, that was like 3 lines of code. It's literally all it takes in Unreal, anyway. So if we add in a, I don't know what I was going to say, space, inventory. Huh. So if you call a class something something components, Unreal takes out the components from the name? It just is inventory? I never realized that. I never knew. This is the first time I'm actually like aware of that. Anyway, so we have the inventory component now, right? So I can... Where even am I? What the fuck is all this? There we go. Cards. It's an array. Let me add an element. My god! It's a custom struct exposed to the editor. It's magic! It's unbelievable! Apparently. So yeah, I can very easily now just say, hey, this is a dragon card of type rare. This is all that I wanted Godot to be able to do. Well, I wanted to be able to do a lot of things, but this is the main thing that I wanted to be able to do, and it just didn't let me do. It can do that very easily now. So we effectively have an easy to set up inventory now. This is literally all there is to it. Now, we probably want this new widget blueprint to actually have a proper name now. So this is going to be inventory screen. And this inventory screen is going to not have a bunch of cards already pre-existing on it, because that would be dumb. What this is going to do is going to have a inventory component on it. That's an event dispatcher, not a variable. The fuck is wrong with you? So an inventory component, which will be of type inventory components, and then from there we get the cards, and on pre-construct we hold on a moment. We need a wrap box to be a variable, so we can access it in Blueprint, and we simply add a child. And we add a child for each of the elements. And we do that by creating a widget of type card. Hotfix is out 5.4.2. I did say that there was an update for 5.4. What are the updates? Like, what did they fix? What was broken in the first place? This is a better question, I guess. Okay, so in the card widgets, now we get into something interesting, because how do we want to set this up? Do we just want to have like a copy of card slots? I think we might just want to have a copy of card slot which will be exposed on spawn. Because that then means that we don't actually need a card asset as a value. Because we need to have... Yeah, that makes sense, because we need to have the rarity available here anyway. So we can like break card slots, we can get the card assets out of that for all these. And then we can get the card rarity and do some stuff based on that as well. But we'll do that a little bit later. For now, we'll just let that exist. So then for each card slot, we just pass that through. We create a widget with that card slot. And that then gets passed right into the rep box. So now whenever we have this widget, the inventory component itself should be instance editable and exposed on spawn. So whenever we create a widget of this inventory screen type, we can pass in an inventory component that it should be displaying, and that will display it properly, in theory. So let's test that out. In my test player, when we create an inventory screen, let's refresh this. We can pass in our inventory component very easily. And our inventory component, we want to like add 2 cards, right? Which will be Dragon Asset and Dragon Asset 2. And now when I open this, I should have one inventory with 1 of each card. Cool. You see, sometimes when I actually know what I'm doing, progress is made so much faster. Progress sometimes happens fast when you don't get stuck on meaningless bullshit that doesn't actually matter. Who could have thought, right? Another wonderful thing is that it's very easy for me to also say, hey, the chest also has an inventory component. So let's add an inventory component to the chest, which will be... I guess that immediately is instance editable as a component. That makes sense. Yeah, that does make sense. Now, the one thing that I liked about Godot, to be fair, right, because I've been railing on Godot being kind of dumb in some ways. The one thing that I did like about Godot is because it is not as... How do I say this nicely? Because it's not as tightly built as Unreal in a lot of ways. You also get a lot more freedom to do things just a very simple, straightforward way. And that is to say that it's much easier in Godot to just say, hey, in your event tick, it's update or something like that. I don't know what the function name is anymore. Just check like if a certain input is pressed. Or there's even proper like updates or input functions, delegates, whatever, that just work on everything. In Unreal, there's this thing, right? Because we can have like... I can make an input action for open chest. Let's just do that real quick. Like if we open this up and I say, like this will be our interact action. That's all fine and good. And then I can say interact. If I do this, this won't do shit, right? By default, because the player controller isn't able to like control anything about this actor. I think. I might be mistaken. It definitely will need a action mapping though, I think. But that is, I think, as easy as just adding it to this. So we have player move. And I think I can just say, hey, interact. And we'll put that on the E key for now. Nothing about modifiers or anything like that. So now that should, like that doesn't do anything. But also because, and that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Because what we need to do, I think, is on begin play is set up like or inputs bindings, something like that. I need to look this up real quick. Because I've done this in C++ a couple of times now. I haven't done it in Blueprint, if I'm being honest with you. So Unreal setup player inputs components. Yeah, can I create a player input component on a normal actor class? That is what I want. And this is the issue. That I keep running into. Well, this thing can't take in an input component, surely, right? Yeah, no, it can't. So just this random actor being able to like listen out for inputs. Being annoying to set up is a downside to Unreal, which I don't particularly like. Is there any listen for input action function that I can call? You can have an event dispatcher. Could use an interface for that. That's not really what I'm looking for. I'm just looking for Unreal input action on actor. Setting up inputs on an actor. Because there's no fucking reason to make this a pawn, is my point. So I shouldn't need to, like, do I need to just, is that as easy as it is? Can I just like enable inputs on this and get player controller? I still think the fact that this is necessary is kind of annoying, if that's all there is to it, but yeah, so that is all there is to it. So once you do that, it works. When I disconnect this, I just want to make sure that I didn't miss it last time. It doesn't do anything. So, okay, that is as easy as it is. It is easier than I thought it was. I thought I was going to need to like set up player input component stuff, but you only need to do that on the actual player character. That makes sense. So we can like create widgets, inventory screen of this chest's inventory, and then like add that to the viewport, and then I guess set input mode to UI only as well. The widget in focus is the thing that we just spawned in, and then the player controller will just be player controller 0. We probably should do that for when we open up our own inventory as well, actually. At which point it is probably, yeah, actually, it's probably easy to just do that in the inventory screen, because there's never going to be an instance where we open up this inventory screen and we don't want that to happen. So let's just set input mode to UI only, and then we can like destroy, like on destroyed, event destruct. There we go. We can set input mode game only again. So we can get player controller for both of those. You can just move the tick away. Probably not even going to use it. And then widget in focus will just be this, which is self in Blueprint. It's really annoying that that's named differently in Blueprint. So that will now, I think, always set the input mode to. So we can move around now, but when we open up our inventory, we can't move around anymore, and we, frankly, are kind of screwed because we don't have a way to exit out of this with the widget itself. I just realized. So yeah. But now if we open up the chest, we also are stuck because the chest is empty, but we won't see anything. And then set input mode expects a valid player controller as player controller target. What are you talking about? It does that when I press the F key. Does it also do that when I press the E key? No, it's only with the F key. That is weird. Right, that is weird. Why is that? Anyway, you probably should set up the owning player as well. Now I think about it. We'll worry about that a little bit later if it actually ends up becoming a problem, because for now I'm just going to kind of ignore that. But we probably should make an open inventory input binding, to be fair. so that we can have that work properly. What I first want to test now is if I go in here, say inventory, and I start adding. Like, I have 3 cards in the chest, right? We have a dragon, and a dragon 2. Press E now, it opens up the chest inventory. Cool. Which still has that arrow. When I press F, it still has that arrow. Why does it do that? Because this should be... like, that should work. By the time this gets constructed, there is a player controller. So, and the input doesn't get stopped. It does get set to UI only. So I don't know what the issue is. Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, so now what I want to do, the thing that I've really been looking forward to is this my OBS keeps fucking bugging out. I hope that it's not screwing up the stream too much, but we'll see. Looks like YouTube views are absolutely like non-existent anyway, which might be because OBS is screwing up and the stream is unwatchable. So let me just to be sure, let me go check on the live stream dashboard. It says excellent connection, so I guess people just have better shit to do tonight, which is fair. Well, let's keep going. If there's nothing going wrong. Okay, so I also want to change the tint of the entire card based on the rarity. And I think, frankly, the easiest way to do that is just to have a border over the entire thing. So that's like all the way like this, which we just have to fill and fill. And then that's only a border, right? Yeah, no, that's not how that works. An image is what I meant, of course. Where did that border go? What? Hold on. Did I add in a button? Why did I add in a button? I want to replace it with an image, pretty please. I'll just remove it, that's fine. So yeah, the idea is if I put in an image here, I actually, now that I think about it, it's probably not gonna work. Oh no, it does need to be all the way on top. But not for the text, actually. So we do this. Yeah, so the idea was the idea that I had is if I put this on like 20% alpha. Now this still does work, right? Because if I put this on like 20% alpha and make it pink, this is now a rare card or a legendary card, and this can be then like a rare card, and this can be a whatever card, right? And when it is common, it'll just be alpha 0, so that works perfectly fine. Now I think about it, that's probably the easiest and most straightforward way to do that. So let's do it that way. So let's make a switch on rarity. And we'll get our, which image was that again? This is our rarity tints. We set brush from what do we set the brush? From tint color, I guess? Yeah, so when it is common, what I want to do is I want to set this to just alpha 0. Might as well set the brush to 1 just to be sure. And then when it's uncommon, rare, and legendary, we do other stuff. And eventually we can maybe, if we want to like upgrade this to legendary, being a specific image that is like rainbow colors, like to make the holographic style ID work that you often have on like rare cards in actual card games. But for now we're just going to go with tints. So what is the usual color coding for rarity that you see in like MMOs? MMO rarity colors. I think it's like green, blue, purple, right? So yeah, commons are white, green for uncommon, blue for rare, purple for epic, orange for legendary, gold for artifacts, and then cyan for heirloom. That seems like it is a very specific MMO, not gonna lie to you. But yeah, so green, blue, purple is just what we're gonna go with. So this will be green, and it will just be like 15% alpha or something like that. That's actually... just copy over the hex code for that. So that we can just paste that in and change this to blue. And paste it in here again and change it to purple. And probably for purple what we're actually going to do is we're going to do like a 0.2. A little bit more purple coming through. Maybe make it a little bit darker. So now, just like that, it should work where I go into my chest inventory and I say, hey, this one will be legendary and this one will be uncommon. And if I open up this chest now, we see the different colors are just being applied to the entire card. But when it's common, it's just the base color. So the color coding works. And it doesn't actually influence the text, which actually, now that I think about it, since the text is black anyway, it literally doesn't matter because a black text wouldn't be influenced by a tint anyway. So yeah, it's actually straight up not that important. The only thing that's bothering me is the fact that... okay. There is one small issue. And that's that this happens. So let's see. I don't think that Unreal does this as well, but let's just, for shits and giggles, let's see if the image... oh, it's not even a child of that, is it? Yeah, it's a little annoying. So the other way to do it would be to not have this image in there. Like not have this rarity tint image in it. But just have the card border. And this is probably the better way to do it, if I'm being honest with you. Where is the actual like card image? There we go. Card image. Why does that suddenly... oh, because there's a compile error, that's why. Okay. Just copy this over and apply this to both elements individually. It's a little messy to do it this way. But it's also more exact, more precise. Is there any other way that I can reasonably do this? I don't think there is. Unless I make an image that is just pure white and the shape of the card as an overlay. I mean, I can do that, but that... I don't know, that seems unnecessary, to say the very least. So we can just get the card border and the card image, and I probably should have made a redirecting node so that they all plug in to one thing instead. But hey, here we are. I did not do that. And just like that, let's make a Can we make color? I don't... Yeah, so that's the issue. A linear... Okay, so we have got make color and make linear color. I guess we'll just put this as a handful of variables. So we just promote this to variable common color. Just for the sake of having an easy way to change the colors around if I want to like experiment with that a little bit. So we have the promote a variable. We then have the uncommon color. We have the rare color. And we have the legendary color. In theory, because they're now variables, I could also make something, which I probably won't do because it'll be weird, but I could very easily now make something where a specific card or specific card slot or whatever like has different colors going for it because they're like per instance, right? If I make them instance editable, but I don't think that's necessary. So yeah, these should all have their proper values, right? They do. So that should fix... You know what? That's fair. That is fair. Because we're doing it differently now, we should also... like the common color should... They should all just be full alpha. Is what we're learning here. And then the color tint itself should just be closer to white instead. So, I don't know, something like that. We'll have to play around with it a little bit. And this is why it's nice that we have these as variables, because now we just have one very easy to access value to change instead of having to go all about different places and doing stuff. Okay, that might be a little too subtle. That might be a little too subtle. Somebody is fucking dying in the background. Rip in pieces. So let's make this like significantly more pronounced in its saturation. That might be a little much. This is one of those things that you can spend an eternity on, just like gazing at the colors. Like once this is halfway decent, the only thing that I really want to make sure is that the green one is distinctly noticeably different from having no color. And the way we do that is maybe making it a slight bit more cyan, but not too much because it shouldn't be blue. Just maybe go full sand green. Like the third one in this chest is uncommon, right? I'm not losing my mind. Oh no, it's just common, legendary. Okay, so that's probably why. That green probably doesn't need to be that intense then. Just something like this. Opening the chest. Yeah, no, that is plenty noticeable. Plenty noticeable, indeed. Okay, so we've got our cards that all work the way they should. We still have this set input mode. Game only expects a valid player controller as player controller target. I don't know why it thinks that that is not a valid player controller. Because it just gets player controller, right? No, this one. I don't know why it thinks that this node is not giving me a valid player controller. That's weird. Like, let's put just a is valid in there. Just to check. You dumb. doesn't even print out you dumb. So, it's literally screaming at me for no good reason. Why do you keep bitching about this? Does it not want me to set the input mode from a widget? For some reason. I feel like that might be what's going on here. Be a little bit annoying if that's the case. It's not that big a deal, I guess. No, it should. It should work. It should just work. Unless it's... I mean, there's also a chance that we have... somewhere else? Maybe the owning player, setting the owning player is the issue, but that still doesn't make any fucking sense, right? It's still bitching about that. Maybe just because of the event destruct. It could be the event destruct, but that still doesn't make sense. Because when this thing destructs, the player controller still is valid. But let's disconnect it just for troubleshooting purposes. You are right. It seems like you are indeed right. Cold one widget is no longer referenced, causing the slate to be destroyed. Just like constructs will be... Is it destruct or is it is there also an event like destroy? No, it is destruct. I guess we just make an event close inventory instead, which does that. Just sets gameplay mode back to, or input mode back to game only, and then just destroy or remove from parent, rather. Remove from parent self. Which we might as well, now that we're at it, make a button that does that. Which will be in the canvas panel on the... Good question, where we're going to put this, I don't know. I guess we'll put that somewhere like in here. Try our very best to anchor this properly. It's good enough. And then the scroll box itself needs to move over ever so slightly and probably just be a bit smaller. I wish you could somehow say that, hey, anchor this thing just to the dimensions of what it is, because that is literally what you like want to do 90% of the time, I believe. So it might just be something that does that, I don't know. Add in a text. That's a very loud bird. Come on, text. Thank you. Close. I called the text close. I didn't set the text to close. Two very different things. Bird murder is also a different thing. Totally unrelated to anything that's happening right now. So yeah, let's add in the... What? Oh, it needs to be a variable for that to work. So button on clicked. We close inventory. And I actually just realized that in the player controller, what we also want to do is we want to show mouse cursor. One of these days, I'm going to like actually burn my roof down just so that I can murder these fucking birds. Because they are loud as fuck. Anyway. So now we should have an inventory that we can actually move around in and close again. And once it is closed, we can move around. But while it's open, we can't move around. Isn't this just the literal best thing in the universe? Can't remember much of the framework, but does the player controller get destroyed before the widgets when you exit the editor window? I guess that is what happens. That does make sense. So in an actual game scenario, it probably wouldn't matter, right? In an actual game scenario, you would just close it like this anyway. Like, I am sure that if I went into... where is it? Like, if I'm pretty sure that if I just changed event destruct to this and then close inventory would just be removed from parents, that it would work now based on that ID. I think the way we just set it up is better anyway. But now it should also, when I close this inventory, like not give me any errors. Yeah. And in an actual game session, that also wouldn't matter. Like if you somehow closed the game with the inventory open, it would error you out, but you also would have the game closed. So who gives a shit? But the way we set it up now a moment ago is better anyway, right? Having this as like a proper function of itself. We don't need the event destruct anymore. I think this is a better way to do it. So I'm kind of glad that it gave me that error, because it forces me to be better. Now that we have that, I think it is time to make something that randomly generates a couple of cards for us. It might also be time to start adding more card assets, to be fair. Because it's kind of hard to randomly generate stuff when... Now, first things first, what I want to do is when we open up... when we do this interact, I want to first check if we are close to the chest. So what I probably want to do is I want to get player character. No, I don't want to get the player character actually, because the player is not a character. I want to get the player pawn. That could have been catastrophic. Well, not catastrophic, but that could have thrown me for a bit of a loop. Get actor location. And that actor location for self as well. And from there we just get a distance. And we check if that distance is greater than, let's say, 80 units. Because then it is within one tile. I think that is fair. No, it has to be more than 80 units because it's outlined. Let's say 100 units. So now it will only open up a chest when it's closer than 100 units to a chest. Thing is, we just don't want to put any chests so close together that you can open both chests at the same time. Right? I think that's the easiest way to work with this. So we're gonna... my idea is that we're just gonna have one chest that has a, like, bag of holding type inventory. It's just gonna have your entire fucking inventory in it. And then we're going to have a computer at which you can order cards, and that's going to also use the interact button. And they're just going to be like 200 units apart or 300 units apart, so that they can't ever be opened at the same time. And that's how I deal with that. But now if I stand all the way over here, yeah, fucking what, mate? Oh, distance is... I'm an idiot. When the distance is less than 100, we can open it up. Yeah, no. Okay, so now when we stand here, this does nothing. But when we get close to it, we can... yeah, okay. So... different ID. I've got different ID, because that's a little bit annoying. The way we'll actually deal with that is we'll just add a box collision. Which we can not move. Now we can. Thank you. Let's just make this... Why can't I edit these box extents? For some... Why? What's go... Oh, it's just lagging. It's just lagging. I think this is 212 wide, so that should be like 160. That's... Wow, why is that so... It's 80. Oh, it's 80 in both directions, right? So let's call this like 90. So that's a little bit bigger. Maybe even 100. And then this should be... That literally does not matter, actually. Because, again, we're working with 2D. And then this should probably be... Let's just double to 64. That's fine. So what we'll do instead is we'll try to like get overlapping actors with filter on the character 2D. Contains item for the player pawn. There's a much easier way of dealing with this, I think. Question is if we should implement this into some kind of parent class, because the computer that you're eventually going to like order these things from will also have the same functionality. But I think we're just going to make that a blueprint child of this class. Because it essentially is going to be a slightly... Well, no, but then we're going to need to put this in... It really doesn't matter. We'll worry about that when we get to that. That's probably not going to be a thing that we do today anyway. Even though we're making good progress, to be fair. So, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. When I get close to it, I can open it. I can't move around anymore because I'm in an inventory screen. I close it and I can move around again. And then I can open my own inventory screen and so on and so forth. Fantastic. Fantastic indeed. So let's create a open inventory. Open inventory. And let's add that to our player inputs. Open inventory. The input mapping for it will be... Ooh, that's a good question. I guess it'll also be E, maybe? I feel like that would make sense, but then we might need to think about redoing that and opening the other thing through like an interface, which makes more sense probably. Yeah, I think that makes more sense doing it that way. Maybe. Let me think on this real quick, because what we can do is when we open inventory, right? We do this on here. I mean, we could do this in C++ as well, but just for sake of what we're doing right now. Hold on, open inventory? What is this other one? Oh, it's just the... Sure. Cool. What we can do is we can, like, sphere overlap actors, we can filter on like actor 2D. And on every single thing that we overlap with, we try to execute a... Yeah, this makes more sense. Let's do it that way. Okay, so the idea here is that we probably want to make this into a function because we have a local variable that way. We'll get into that in a moment. I don't want to promote it to variable. I just want to make it like a literal, like make an array. World static is probably fine. And then the sphere radius, let's set that to like 100. And this way it also does everything based on collision and stuff. So we can go back into the chest, effectively get rid of this entire thing. We will make a blueprint. Maybe I should make this a C++ interface just so that I can also use it in C++ if I need to. Would there be a reason for me to do that? My general rule of thumb is when something needs to do like UI stuff, I do that through Blueprint because it's a pain in the ass otherwise. Like it's so much more convenient to do it in Blueprint. And all this is about interacting with things that have UIs. That's the literal thing. Like the action, we called it open inventory, right? So I don't think we're ever going to do anything with this in C++. So let's make it a blueprint interface just to keep things easy. Open inventory. Let's call it that. And we'll just call this open inventory, which will return a bool whether or not it succeeded. So that means that it's going to return a bool that is false if we have an actor that doesn't have this interface to begin with, because its default return value is going to be false. But also if we, for some reason, have this, which would never happen, I think, but in theory it would work, if we have this interface on something that doesn't have an inventory component, or for whatever reason needs to like make the player think that it doesn't have an inventory, we can do that. But now that I say that out loud, that sounds really, really fucking dumb. So that's never going to happen. The inventory or the input, I don't think it needs an input. So that's really all there is to it. So now in the chest, what we can do is we can implement that interface. So let's implement our blueprint interface open inventory. Open inventory is... Oh, it's a function, that's why. Okay. So we just do that. Right, that opens the inventory for this thing. And when that happens, we return a success of true, because we just opened up an inventory. And we can do in our test player here. Return value true if overlap was past filters, false otherwise. I don't think we actually need to do this as a branch, but I do want to make this into a function of its own. Query actors for inventory. And the wonderful thing about this is because we have this out actors now, we can do a for each loop with break as well. And this actually is really, really nice because we can try to open inventory as a message. And when it's found something that can open an inventory, even if there, for whatever reason, it's two things close to each other that have an inventory that can be opened, the moment it finds the first one, it will open that inventory. And then we can go into this condition and we can say we break out of this. So it'll only ever be able to open one inventory. And either way, what we will do is we'll make a local variable here, found inventory. And we will set that to true if it finds any inventory at any point. So that way we have a variable that has the information on whether or not we found an inventory. And we can use that as the value for the return. So we can just like return that. It's called found inventory 1. That's going to bother me so much. So that will return. Oh, that's why. Let's call it was inventory found instead then. You can't have the name of the return value be the same as a variable, because I guess technically it stores it as a variable that's getting returned. Sure, was inventory found. There we go. So now it queries all the actors around it in a certain radius around get actor location around itself. If it finds anything, it'll open it up and return that it found something. If it didn't find anything, and this is where we get back to the good stuff. If it doesn't find anything, it opens up its own inventory instead. There's a much better way of doing it. So we can now go back to player inputs. We can remove interact, and then open inventory will be on E. We can actually remove the interact action altogether. So now, if I open my inventory here while I'm far away, we can see it opens up my own inventory, which it won't let me close for whatever fucking reason. So that's a bad start. Did it open it twice? Is it? Oh, so yeah, that's probably my bad. What I guess I did is I put this into triggered. Yeah, needs to go into started. Because now it's opening the inventory a couple of times in a row. So we have my own inventory. I can close it out. And when I go up to the chest and I press the exact same button, it still opens up my own inventory. Fuck. Okay. We almost had a thing going there. Almost. I wonder why that didn't work. I have to imagine that is to do with this. It might be that this is not world static. Has to be world static, right? Actor class filter actor 2D. The chest isn't actor 2D. Yeah, the chest isn't actor 2D, so that can't be it either. Let's see if it prints anything. Whether or not it even like does the for loop properly. For each loop. No. Well, it probably does it just the way it needs to go, but that does mean that we have like nothing found here. Like returns an array of actors. Hold on. True if there was an overlap past the filters. False otherwise. So there's just no overlap at all. Right, so we have no actors. doesn't even print that out either. That is really weird. What? Am I going insane? Is there something else opening up my inventory? No, right? There's now disconnected. So it's only... Oh, it's because that's not connected. That's why. No actors. Okay, it doesn't find any actors. I don't think I can just not give in object types and have it. Yeah, I can't do that. So now my question is... I don't need the box collision on this thing anymore either, actually. I guess we check what collision channel the sprite exists on, maybe? It is block all dynamic. It's world dynamic? Hell no, it's not. Fuck off, you're world static. You don't move. There we go, that is the issue. So now that we have solved that, I can open up my inventory when I stand away from this thing. And when I move toward it and I try to open up my inventory, I open up the chest. And when I then eventually go to like the ordering PC, I open up its widget with everything that has to do with that. Now when I open up like the display cases, I open up its widgets and display what needs to be displayed there and stuff like that. So yeah, so we have that interface working now in both senses of the word. The like widgets, the UI, the interface, but also like the coding interface. I'm going to take a very quick bathroom break, and then we'll come back to start facilitating movement between the two inventories, I think. Because right now I just have one inventory screen. Obviously, the chest is going to need to have an inventory screen. If you've seen my inventory series, that's effectively just going to be like the chest inventory from that. One side is the cards from the chest. The other side is the cards from the player. And clicking on either one is going to just like move them from one to the other. I'm not going to be using the drag and drop system because drag and dropping is a nightmare. I'm not going to be doing the thing that I did in my bonus episode where I effectively made my own replacement for the drag and drop system by making a click and drag system. If that makes any sense. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. I'm just going to say, hey, when a card is clicked on, it's going to move to the other inventory. And how we implement that, we will see in a moment once my bladder is empty. Turns out you can do that real fucking quick. I also, while I was at it and up and about, got myself a glass of iced tea. Which is always good stuff. Always so good. Okay. So yeah, the chest inventory is going to need to be significantly different from the normal inventory. Like the player inventory just kind of like being this. We probably want to give it a little bit more visual interest at some point, but for now, this is kind of fine. The chest inventory we'll probably need to do something different for. So I think I'm going to do... yeah, I think what I'm going to do is we're going to change the inventory screen that we have here. And we're going to just kind of... like I'm going to probably remove this button. No, I'm not going to remove the button. What I'm going to... Okay, so there's two things we can do, right? We can turn this into the like inventory component reflection. Or we can make a separate inventory component reflection and put that in here. It literally just doesn't really matter. I guess it is easier for me to copy things over into another blueprint. So let's do that. Widgets. So this will be the widget blueprint inventory viewer. And this one we can put into a size box. We'll give this a default value of 500 by 500, something like that. Put this desired on screen. And then what we do is we close this blueprint interface because we literally don't care anymore. The chest, we'll keep it open for now. We'll just copy over some stuff from here. So that's the card. That's we're gonna need that in a moment as well. This inventory screen, we're gonna take the scroll box and the wrap box. We're just gonna cut that the hell out, and we're gonna put that in here. And that's just kind of everything there is to it. Not gonna lie. And then the pre-construct stuff, we're going to do the same thing with. We just cut and paste. And then we make sure that we, like, if we compile this, it's going to scream at us because certain things are not going to be like exposed and stuff. Oh, hold on, because we're also compiling the wrong thing. There we go. If we compile this, it's going to scream at us because it doesn't have an inventory component, but we can very easily just create that variable. Now, that variable is going to need to be instance editable and be exposed in spawn, of course. And I think that's kind of everything there is to it. So now we take our like inventory viewer, we put that in here. And we make that as big as it needs to be. And we're back where we started, more or less. So, yeah, we just make that this big. We anchor it, and we are back with having our functioning inventory. The only difference being is that we now need to pass through like one more layer of objects. We can get rid of all this stuff. This is an issue that I had at some point as well in the inventory series. Because we have our inventory component, so that's in this case like player inventory component, right? Which is still going to be exposed on spawn and whatever. But on event construct, what we need to do is we need to pass that through this widget as well. I wish you could easily just say like, hey, this pointer is just the same as the other pointer. That would save me so much headache. But it doesn't. I don't think you can do that. So the way we do that now is just set inventory component, and we just set that to the player inventory component, and that should still work now, I think. But I do recall that being somewhat of an issue with this. Yeah, so it doesn't actually do that. So that is a bit of a problem. The way I solved this initially was kind of bad, because if you just add in a delay node, like in this case a tenth of a second, I believe that that fixes it. It actually doesn't, never mind. Oh, that's what's happening. Yeah, no, because it does this in the oh, but I might be able to fix that. Yeah, so because it only sets this in event construct, that's the issue. And the inventory viewer is trying to do all of its shit in pre-construct. That is probably the issue. But if we just move this to event construct as well, I think the children will always get constructed after the parents, and that is bullshit. Apparently it is not. But if we then put in the delay node here, that should fix it. That's entirely the wrong widgets. So if we put in the delay node here in the inventory screen, that should fix it. It's a bad fix. It also does not work. Why not? That should have worked. I'm guessing it's because the player... Yeah, okay, so that might have been the issue. We changed the name of the inventory component. So maybe we don't actually need that delay node. You could make a custom event and call it after you set the inventory. Yeah, that is the better way to do it. That is the better way to do it. That's not the way that I want to do it, if I can help it. Because it should be able to just work on construct. I think now it will work on constructs. Because the thing is, right, I'm fairly certain that the construct on the interview or the inventory, like the parent thing, has to run first before this thing can get constructed and run its construct function. I'm 99% sure that that's the case, but maybe not necessarily for pre-construct. So I think it is a good idea to put both of them in construct. But just to be sure, now I think about it, like, is there any reason for this not to be in pre-construct? Maybe it's something to do with the UI mode that might fuck it up. But let's put this in pre-construct just to test, because that might fix it as well. So if I open this up, it doesn't error me out anymore. Also doesn't show anything. It does still error me out. For some reason I thought it was crashing before. It obviously isn't. Okay. So that doesn't do what I wanted to do, which is a little bit annoying. So yeah, what you're saying is probably the way to do it. Instead of doing this through like inventory viewer construct, what we do is we make a custom event, set inventory, which we do something like this in. Yeah. I guess that effectively comes down to the same thing as just setting the thing directly, but a little bit better. So This makes more sense, I think. And that should now run without any problems, I think. Right? Yes, it does. But the wonderful thing is, now that we have that, we can more easily make a inventory screen that views two inventories, and that's what we're going to do now. So let's do that. We'll call this player inventory screen. I'm just gonna like copy this over for chest inventory screen. I will order this project at some point, I say confidently, probably not accurately. Let's like, I don't know, maybe do it like this. Oh, that's only the, that's not ideal. So this will be the chest inventory, and we'll copy this over, and this will be the player inventory. And I just realized that that is gonna be annoying. Okay, we're going to probably need to change a thing or two about that interface, I think. Reason being is that this thing is going to need a reference to the player and a reference to the chest. Which means that I either need the chest to be aware of the player, or the interface to return oh, that's actually a problem. How am I going to do that? I guess I just sent through the player inventory into the interface as well and just trust that it gets used as it should be used. That way it doesn't need to be aware of the player, it just gets sent the player inventory. Right? Because the other alternative is that the object that I'm interacting with sends through the class of its widget that it should spawn in and its inventory component, and then the player does all the spawning in. But that sounds like a nightmare. So we're not going to do that. So yeah, we'll probably just remember the thing that we literally just closed down? Yeah, we're opening it back up. The input here is going to be the player inventory component, because I think there's literally never going to be a an inventory UI that's not going to need to also display the player's inventory. So this is kind of, yeah, I think that's fine. I think that's cool. That's cool. That's fine. Okay, so this one has the player inventory and the chest inventory. We have the player inventory components already. But this is actually the chest inventory in this case. And then we also have the player inventory component. Let's name things properly. Make sure that this is called components. And we also set the inventory on the player inventory component here, or the player inventory widget rather, to the player inventory component. And I think that's all there is to it. That's literally all there should be to it. We need to update a couple of things here, because this query actors inventory now has a, where is the refresh nodes? Oh, hold on. Here, there we go. The open inventory now has an input for the player's inventory, and inside of the chest. We're no longer spawning in the inventory, we're spawning in the chest inventory screen, which also has a reference to... oh, that's chest inventory, and we take in the player inventory that we're getting sent into that. So now, player inventory, neat. Chest inventory, neat. The cards are really fucking massive. But that is, like, at this point, actually not that difficult to fix, I don't think. Because what we can just do is we can just go into our, like, WBP card. We can just say our size box here. We want to, like, if we want to make these half the size, that's like 160 by... that actually is a problem, maybe. What is... halving that is kind of annoying. That's 222.5. Okay, yeah, so that does kind of become a problem, not gonna lie. Didn't expect that to be such a big deal. It's because that's a card image. I need to go into the size box. Like, changing that. No, that still is a problem. Okay, I thought that was gonna be less of an issue scaling that. I mean, we can scale it like this, right? No, we still cannot do that. We're back to the thing that I got stuck on for like an hour last week. Doesn't that just feel amazing? Because I do honestly feel that those cards are a little bit too big. Like, if you look at those on the inventory screen there, that is just too big. Unless what we do is we add an image. We add an image in a horizontal box. So we have this horizontal box in which the overlay and the card border, the vertical box, and the image all exist. Hold on. In which the overlay Okay, I need to think here for a moment. Hold on. The image is going to need to exist in the horizontal box anyway. But then all this... Yeah, we just need to wrap all this in another overlay. Which is all kinds of fucked up. But that's, I think, just because these are not set to that. There we go. So now we have... the card image is wrapped in an overlay, which is wrapped in another overlay. I think these can then go into this overlay with that, right? So now we have the entire card in one overlay, which is going to be set into this horizontal box. And this overlay needs to be then wrapped. We'll get there. Back into a size box. And that size box we are going to set to the exact same dimensions here. So that's 320 by, what was it, 445? Okay, yeah. And then we have this image. I don't know if this is going to be an image or what, but the idea is that we would like display some stuff here. I think that is the idea that I had, right? So if we do this as a background, and then we can of course like make this brush like color and opacity, make it a little bit more gray, make it a little bit see-through. That then probably needs to actually exist inside of an overlay, doesn't it? So if we put that in there, and then we can put other stuff in there. So we can like put in a text on top of it, which can say things like the value. And that value will then get set to like on pre-construct. Let's add in a sequence node here just to make things easier to see. Needed to expose that as a variable, thank you. So yeah, we set text, which we do by append string, and that will be value card assets get value, and this is going to return a float string not really what I wanted to do. To string, no. Do I need to make it to text? Yeah. I don't know why the to text has all this information that I can use. Or all these options. I guess what I can actually do, instead of doing all that, because we don't actually need that, what I can just do is I can truncate this and then append that to a string. String append. That's a little cleaner than what I was doing a moment ago. Which then still needs to get converted to a text, but like, does text have an append? I don't think text has an append, or like even a concat, right? Yeah, no, it doesn't. So that's kind of dumb. And in the same way, we can also like then display the card name a little bit in there as just a little bit of like an informational thing. It's nice to have the card name and description on the card itself as a visual point of reference, but we can make that a like more in-universe font that doesn't necessarily need to be like incredibly readable, and then have a more readable font in the description to the side here. I think that is kind of nice to have. And so with that, what we can do instead of making this a wrap box, I think what we can do is we can just make this a vertical box instead. So we can get rid of this wrap box. We make this a vertical box, which need to be exposed as a variable. And with this being a vertical box, we can now just like, that also has an add child, because it still has a panel widget, right? So we can just replace that. And our inventory still scrolls and everything should still work, but we now have an inventory that looks a little bit more like this, which is kind of nice. Now, the entire card here is inside of a size box, but actually I probably want to wrap the entire fucking thing inside of a button. Welcome to my life. Wait, what the hell is even... What the hell even is going on? I don't think I need this size box anymore, if I'm being real with you. Like, if I can replace this with child. Yes. Do we have, like, margins here for padding? I think I just want to set the padding to 0 everywhere. Yes. At which point we might actually not even need this image, if I'm being real with you. That's good for scaling purposes, I guess. If we get rid of this image. No, I still want that image. Okay, so what I was thinking is, if we get rid of the image, we can just use the button stuff, but I actually want to make the button... Oh, that's unfortunate. The button makes everything under it invisible with it, apparently. Oh, that's the background color. So if I do this, no. Oh, it's the other way around. I'm using color and opacity, but I should be doing this with the background color, which makes the button itself invisible, which is nice. But we now have this all, yeah. So next order of business is going back into the inventory viewer, and I want to actually check if the vertical box has anything. Like if I set the padding here to 50 on the bottom, does that add in 50 units of padding between every item? It seems like it might. If I make this like 500 instead, just out of curiosity, right? That's not how that works at all. Okay. There must be something else inside of the vertical box that spaces the items out automatically. Surely. It's not that many options. Let's set like a couple of cards in here just for testing purposes. And see if we can set any like padding between items. Let's check out Unreal vertical box spacing. How to add spacing to buttons that are parented to a canvas, to a vertical box. So yeah, it needs to be inside of the buttons themselves, which makes sense. So what we want to do, I think, is go back into our card once again, and then in the button, no, maybe not any button, in the card. Okay, in the card as a whole, we want to set the like padding at the bottom to 50. So that will then, when I open this up, for some reason only do that on the last one. What? Oh, it's probably getting real messed up because it has 2 cards pre-existing in here. Yeah, it probably does not like that. But now those are... hold on. Those are spaced out properly. And in here... So yeah, we can only see 1 card at a time here. Question is that really that annoying? My god. I tried to take a drink and speak at the same time. Don't do that. Horrible idea. Yeah, I think it's this vertical box that might have like the shadow issue again. Is it the scroll box? Yeah, it's this one again. I don't want them to cast shadows. It's really ugly. But it's probably a good idea to put in an image as the background here in the scroll box. Hold on. I will wrap this with a overlay and then put an image in that overlay as well. And that image is just going to be stretching wide and tall. And the color is going to be like, I don't know, give it a little bit more color. So that way we still can see the distinguishing difference between which inventory is which, right? That needs to definitely work the other way around. And this just straight up doesn't work anymore now. What? Why? Oh, because it's just a vertical box. What happened to the scroll box? Where did I... Okay, I fucked up somewhere. I'll probably replace... I need to wrap with overlay instead. There we go. And then the overlay itself, or the scroll box actually, probably needs to be set to take up the entire space. Overlay is fine, which also just going to have an image in it. Image is filling. And we can eventually, maybe at some point, have ChatGPT generate an actual image for this or something. But that will then get stretched and stuff, so maybe just keep it at a color. Maybe that's good enough. That needs to be the other way around. So that needs to be on top, because things that are on top get rendered first and aren't getting rendered on top, as would make sense. So okay, we have this now as a representation of where every inventory starts and stops. That works fine. I would prefer them to be smaller, if I'm being honest with you. But I don't think there's that much I can do about that at this point. Because if I make this entire button like half the size, what does that do? Like, that seems to work, actually. Hold on. Maybe that does work. Oh yeah, that spaces them out like really fucking weirdly, though. Because it's only the render and not the actual, like, physical size of it. So yeah, that is problematic. I don't know if we're going to be able to fix that. So I'm thinking, like, when we hover and when we click on things... Well, actually, when we click on things, we don't need them to be a different color, because when we click on them, they just immediately disappear and go into the other inventory, so that's fine. But when we hover something, it probably should highlight them. And buttons do have just a built-in functionality for that. So maybe, after all, we don't do this as 0, or as 0. We set that back to 1. And if we do that, we have the immediate benefit of having this highlighting. But oh my god, that is ugly. Why is it ugly like that? Because they're centered in the center. They should be centered to the left. I think that is the issue. At which point I think this image also should then just not be... hold on, but that's not... That doesn't... Oh, but the button itself probably does do that, doesn't it? Or the overlay, rather? No? This overlay, then? That overlay does it. So if we also just align that to the left... Trying to figure this out. Something is stretching out my button. Is it this size box? Is it this overlay? I think it's this overlay that's stretching out my button. Let's get rid of this image. Because that's making things confusing. So yeah, these buttons are like humongous. Let's try to outline the... that size box shouldn't have anything to do with it. Yeah, it doesn't. The horizontal box... Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense either, that would be the thing doing anything wrong. Nothing here should be like filling the entire screen anymore. Oh no, but what is filling the entire screen is in the inventory viewer. The scroll box itself is set to that, right? So if we just align that to left, and then the vertical box also align that to left, I think that might fix my issue. Yeah, it does. It's still... just want to say that you're inspiring. I'll go watch your guys' tutorials. Thank you. You have a good stream and a good mood, everyone. Thanks. I'm glad that you're finding things helpful. So yeah, this one probably should then be center outlined, and this image. Yeah, I think this makes sense to do it this way. And this doesn't technically then also like highlight the card itself, which is a little annoying. But honestly, like, I'm not making a AAA game here. I'm just making something to see how well 2D works in Unreal. And half of this game plays in the UI anyway, so I don't know that as a great example. It was a good opportunity for me to learn to do UI a little bit better, I suppose. So there's that. Let's try to open up the chest and see what that looks like. Yeah, so I at least need to have the ID that inventory slot, or that card slot rather, is a little bit bigger. So we have like the overlay here. I guess what we do is we just put in a spacer in this horizontal box at the very end, and we just say, hey, create more space. Just empty space. Just to make this thing a slightly more pleasant shape. Yes. And then the card as a whole probably could do with a little bit padding as well. So we have padding to the left and the right. Let's also just set those to 50. It doesn't need padding on the top. But that will like create a little bit of padding around. It does need padding on the top actually. So what we'll do instead is instead of doing 50 on the bottom, we'll do like, let's do 20 on the bottom and 20 on the top, maybe. So that way it has a little bit of like padding on either side there as well. So yeah, the inventories are starting to look usable. So now we have like this inventory down here, probably should be marked with player and chest. And we have easy access to the buttons. So now that we have this button, we should on event pre-construct also make an event dispatcher here, which is on card pressed. And all that we do is when we press the button, we call out on card pressed. I'm thinking there probably already is something for that, now that I think about it. Like if we go into... oh no, but... No, hold on. I'm not finishing thoughts. I know how annoying that is, but I'm trying to figure this out on like my own brain first, and then I'll explain what I'm thinking about. So we have the player inventory screen here, for instance, right? Where we have the inventory viewer. We can get the like vertical box, get children, and that just returns. Yes, okay, hold on. So we don't do that in here. We actually do that in the inventory viewer, where they get added. So if we can like assign get button. Can we not get the button as a variable? What the hell? Surely we can. We probably need to set it as a variable to get that. Get button. Surely this has a like a sign on clicked. Yeah, so we don't need to make a separate event dispatcher on clicked card, because it already has one on the button. Which is another one of those things that I think in my inventory tutorial I did make a separate event dispatcher for that. Even though I was also using a button, you can just use the one that the button comes with. So much easier. That said, though, now that I think about that for more than a second, I do need a specific event dispatcher because I need to send through a parameter. So that's probably what I also did on my inventory series. I don't remember. But yeah, we do actually need to like have on clicked, and then on card pressed is going to have a parameter for the WBP or just like the card, which will be type WBP card. Because that needs to be called out with self. So whenever we click on any of these buttons, their event dispatcher will call out and also supply a reference to itself. So the card will call out into the world with, if anybody's listening, do your thing. Also, here's a reference to me because, again, when we click on something, it needs to effectively move, but I'll probably just like copy over all the data, add it to the other inventory, and then destroy it. So we need to have that reference. So then in the... Let's compile. So then in the inventory viewer, what we do is instead of we doing this, which was a smart idea, but it didn't quite work. We assign, or rather bind on card pressed. And then this needs to also have the proper inputs for the card. Because this is only, all that this is going to do is this is just going to pass through that thing to the actual inventory screen that does code with it. So what we have is an event dispatcher that calls out to another event dispatcher that calls out to the actual code that's going to use the information. There might be a reason that is bad. Oh, that's not best practice because some reason. I'm sure that is a thing, but I don't really care. Because this works. And that's the most important part. So, again, we're going to just event dispatcher on, let's call this child card clicked. Which is going to have child card as a parameter, and that's literally just going to, all that is going to do is it's going to call out so that the actual parent will know what to do with it. Because the thing is, this is just like the scroll box thing, right? So if this happens in, if you click on a card and that card is just part of the normal inventory screen, nothing is really going to happen. Because you're just viewing your inventory. If you click on a card in, let's see, like in this screen, it's going to move from one inventory to the other. If you click on a card in the eventual like computer system screen, it's going to move the card from the computer system screen to your inventory and deduct some money. But the other way around, if you click something in your inventory while you're in this screen, nothing should happen. So it's very specific on each individual inventory screen basis what should happen. So that is why I'm just forwarding this as an event dispatcher for the like top level UI element to actually implement what needs to happen. So the inventory container itself doesn't need to concern itself with any functionality. It just needs to know, okay, I have a child, I have a parent, the child says something, I need to just forward that to the parent. That's effectively all that it needs to do. Which brings me to the chest inventory. So when you click on one of these, it needs to go into the other. So let's set that up. And once we have that set up, I think it is a good moment to call it for today. But let's get this working first, hopefully. So what we'll do is on event constructs, we'll first just do all that. I'm going to use another sequence node. I'm trying to get into the habit of when I use blueprints to use sequence nodes, just to make things a little bit easier to read when I come back to them later. So yeah, okay, what are we actually going to do? So I guess we have like the chest inventory component, right? From there we get and there's going to be an issue I just realized with like redrawing the inventory, which we'll probably look into today as well. We will get the what? Oh, that's the chest inventory component. That's the exact wrong thing. So the chest thingy-majig. Get box. I did the fucking component again. I'm an idiot. Get vertical box. There we go. Get all children. The downside to this is that this just returns a like generic widget object, so we do need to cast that. But that's not that big a deal. So for each loop, we cast to widget blueprint in card. No, card is correct. Hold on, no. I just realized that the we don't even need to do this with like the for each loop. That's why I set up the second the second event dispatcher. We can just bind, or assign rather, to on child card clicked, and that will just return my child card. And we can just do that for the chess inventory. So that's child card clicked chest. And then we kind of do the same thing, but for the player. So we do this, and then we change this one word to player. Make sure that the chest inventory and the player inventory get set properly as well. And then all that this needs to do, because this will now have a reference to the card that was clicked on. So we will, I guess we'll just make a card slot. And we'll just we don't even need to make that, to be honest with you. We can just, it's probably a better way to do this. So what we do is we get the player inventory components, we get the cards, and we add this card. Then we get the chest inventory components, and we remove I guess the card slot also needs to have an index to know what index in the inventory it is, so that it can remove itself in this context, right? Because otherwise, or at least the child card needs to know what index it is. Either the card or the card slot needs to know it, but it makes sense for me to do that in the card slot, I think, so that it can more easily get passed around. Because we can like get cards, and this time I didn't get the component, of course it did. So we can get cards, and then we can like remove, I guess we can remove item as well. But that will just remove the first item that matches the exact description. Because what remove item will do is it'll just iterate through the array until it finds something that matches, and then remove the first one that it finds. So if I have two identical cards in that inventory, and I click on the bottom one, it will remove the top one. The question is that a problem? And I'm going to say yeah, because that feels like it's going to be a little bit confusing. So we want to remove by index. Because there's every chance that you're going to have two of the same card. Now, the question is, hold on. This might overcomplicate things. But what we could also do is we could have a card slot, and when you have more than one card, instead of adding the same card to the array a second time, we can just query the inventory on whether a certain card rarity combination exists yet, and add like this is the amount of this card that you have. That does complicate this system a little bit though. So for now we're just going to, okay, I'll do it like this. For now we'll just remove item. I think on Thursday when we stream again, we're going to update our inventory system to be able to like have card stacking, especially since you can only really view one card at a time in the current like sizing of things, and changing the sizing is a bit of a pain. So having to scroll through the same card like a million times is a little bit annoying. So having cards stack inside of their slots probably makes the most sense, and that way we can like we can easily try to like find an item, and if the item already exists, we can we have the index, so we can get a reference to that, right? And then we can set value by var, and then there's another thing as well, I think. Set instance struct value. Is that it? No. Maybe it is select set by var. I could have sworn there's also a set set members in. There we go. And here we can just say we want to set the rarity only, for instance. This is a thing that I figured out existed after I made that inventory series, which would make some of the things a lot easier. So we can just like set the slots to be plus equal 1 or minus equal 1, and then we can check, hey, is it 0 or lower, as good practice. And if it is, then we remove it from the array. So that makes a lot more sense. But that is a little bit too much work to get doing today. So what we'll do instead is we'll just remove by item, and then on Thursday we'll do the entire thing that I just said. So for now we'll do this, and we will just copy that over and switch around the components for the bottom version of this. So that is card slots, add and remove. And then we also need to redraw the inventory. This is the big deal, because now it will update the inventory components, or rather the inventory components, but not the inventory screens themselves. So we need to add in, and this is really easy, in the inventory viewer thing, what we need to do is we have this set inventory. All that we need to do is we need to make a second custom event here. Redraw inventory, which will just take our, I don't even know, wrap box. Why wasn't that giving compilation errors? That's worrying. We just clear the children in our vertical box, and then we add them again in their like new order with their new information. That's all there is to it. So now that we have that, we can go back into our chest inventory screen. This is a little bit messy with noodles all over the place, but and we just need to redraw them both in both cases anyway. So we redraw, and we just redraw both in both cases. And that should pretty much be the code for moving cards between inventories. I probably messed something up, so let's take a look. Let's take this, and I actually didn't. It actually straight up just works. Holy fuck. Okay, so there we go. We can move between the two inventories. I mean, it's literally the same code that I did for my inventory system tutorial series, but a little bit simplified. So the fact that it just works is kind of great, because that means that I didn't mess up code that I had written previously. But wouldn't be the first time that that would have happened. So we have pretty much a good start, I would say. Yeah. I'm still a little annoyed about the fact that the cards are a little bit too big. Like, it would be nice if... let's just try to spend a minute on checking out if there's anything that we can do here still. Because if we can just make this a little bit smaller. I don't mind having to realign things a little bit, but if I can make them just like a little bit smaller, like 160 by like 220 instead. And then I can find wherever the hell the card image is. I just also make that one smaller, right? So let's make that like 56 by 56. And then increase the padding, or decrease the padding from the bottom to like 20, 17, 16, 15. And then make this 58 by 58 instead. Okay, so now we have this, right? We've got this vertical box here, which is... Okay, so that's just a matter of padding as well. So padding from the top here would be like 70, 110, 126, 135, 150, 155, 160, 162. And then the padding from the left will be something like 50. That's way too fucking much. 25. 15. 16. Padding from the right should then also be 16, right? Yeah. Hello, there, Anna Geek. Welcome to my misery. And I guess maybe, like, is this padding from the bottom? Does that work that way? It does not work the way I thought it would. I guess what we want to do there... Oh, that's the size box, right? So what we want to do there is do this. And then the card name itself. We probably just need to decrease the font size on. Yeah. So let's halve that as well to 8. I probably need to actually... half the size on this as well. I never put in the proper... Let me finish that thought real quick. I never put in the proper font for this either. But now I have my card slots being like half the size. So it's a little bit annoying to change the size of them, but it's not that bad, right? Like that is something that I could even programmatically do probably if I really needed to. But now I can have multiple of them on screen a little bit more easily. And now the padding seems to be a little bit big as well. So if I go back in there, that's what I was looking for. We have the padding here, which is probably more like 8 and 8 kind of situation. Yeah, that looks pretty good. That looks pretty darn good. So if I open up this, at least I can show 2 cards at once now, right? So it feels a little bit more like a somewhat proper inventory. They do scale like... Ah, it's because of the scroll bar that it does that. That is annoying. Hmm. Yeah, I didn't think about that. I guess what we do to fix that is we go back into the inventory viewer. It's this one, right? And this at the moment is an overlay that is just like the scroll box itself. Like something here is stretching from left to right. It's this. So they should just be center aligned, I think. Maybe. Let's see. Yeah, definitely not. Maybe the image. Okay, so the issue that I'm having right now is that this image will always just stretch to accommodate however big this widget is. But when the scroll bar gets added in, the widget becomes a little bit wider. And that feels a little jumpy, and I don't like that. But honestly, maybe just aligning this to the center makes that feel a little less jumpy. It's worth a try. If I... Yeah, see, I don't like the fact that it does that. I mean, the moving of cards works fairly well, right? So then if I... That's a good question. For some reason, I can't open my own inventory anymore, though. That is interesting. Why would that be? Something to look into for another day. Ask, how do you make a text in UI that you can't interact with cursor? When I press my text, it's accessible. Change the widget to a border. Add the scroll box as a child to the border. I think there's a difference you're seeing is the scroll bar padding. Yeah, so when the scroll bar gets added, the widget as a whole just gets a little bit bigger. And I guess what I wanted to do is to just always be... I guess what I needed to do is I needed to do this. And then the scroll box also. Maybe the scroll box also just needs to always fill up everything. Maybe that is actually... Maybe that will then scale itself back in. Hold on, that might actually work. Oh, no, 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 no. 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 No, that's not it. That's not it at all. Unless the issue is actually more to do with the way that the chest inventory is set up. Because these are just like massive, right? So if I made these smaller, just as a test, how would it deal with that? It still fills up the entire fucking screen. Ah, but that's because that's the wrong widget. Hold on. Yeah, no, that fixes it, I think. You still have that it jumps a little bit when it creates a little bit of extra room there, but that's not that big a deal. No, that seems pretty good. At which point it's honestly like worth looking into maybe, and I don't like saying this, maybe changing it back to a wrap box again as well. Maybe. If you want better performance, try to avoid using overlay. You can achieve that with using a border. Also, canvas is a big drain for performance. I know that avoiding canvas is like a legitimate issue. I only have one canvas panel at a time, so that's fine. I guess I can replace a lot of my overlays with borders, and it doesn't really like change anything for my functionality, so I can do that. But I also don't think that difference is all that big, as far as I know. But there's no like real harm in doing it. Yeah, except that I can't do that. Right. Can a border only have like one child? Is that a thing? Surely not. Right? Yeah, no, a border can only have one child. So that's actually not a thing that I can do. For things that only have one child, such as this, I guess I can change it to a border. I can put in like a border in between here and move this to there. And get rid of this overlay. That kind of works. And then set its color just to like alpha 0. Oh, I set the wrong thing to alpha 0. I've been live for like 3 hours. My brain is starting to shut the fuck down. So yeah, if we set this to alpha 0. What? Oh, that's the content opacity. I need to have the brush opacity set to 0. Always get that mixed up. So that does save a little bit, but for the most part these overlays have more than one child each, so I can't replace them. I don't even know what this overlay is doing here. Let's get rid of it. I suppose this overlay as well is replaceable with a border, technically, because of that. So let's do that as well. But it's a little bit bothersome because the button here already has a child. And the replace function doesn't seem to work to a border. And again, if an overlay only has one child, generally also, in this case, just doesn't need to exist, right? Yeah, so we got rid of a couple of elements there that weren't there for any good reason. So that's good. Yeah, so real quick in the inventory viewer, let's change the scroll box back to a wrapping box. And it actually just updates the code very easily as well. Huh. That's kind of neat. I like that. Because now that should allow for... not quite, so that doesn't actually do shit. Except that there is an extra card in here that is... Okay, so it broke something. That's what it did. Why? It's this one. Oh, I changed the scroll box to a wrap box. I need to change the vertical box to a wrap box. And that is likely going to break more code. There we go. There's a lot of sizing stuff that we're going to need to take a look at. That's all very tedious and annoying to do. We'll manage. But now that it's a wrap box again, we should have, not quite, but we can make these buttons a little bit less wide, and then we can have like 2 cards displaying side by side per inventory screen. So we can see 4 at the same time. I think that is pretty good. Why do you want a wrap inside of the scroll box? Because... well, literally that. You can create widgets inside a child of a scroll box directly. Yeah, but that doesn't automatically then like order them and wrap them around. That's the wonderful thing, right? If I now go into the WBP card and I have like a spacer here that is like way too big, it's just like for visual purposes, so that it looks cool. Like if I make that smaller now, oh, hold on, this is that's still a vertical box, so that orders them only vertically, but a wrap box will should be filling it in this direction too now, but now something else fucked up. What the hell? What changed? Something changed. Why is this acting the way it is? Because that's that's the point of a wrap box. Maybe this does need to... oh yeah, that's probably it. It does need to have the actual width of it as well. So now, yeah, so you see now it actually displays them side by side as well. As it wraps them around when there's no more room for an entire widget on the right here, it just creates in a new row. But now that I say that, I think making the padding a little bit less on these cards still, so that we can have 3 per row, is probably nice. So let's make this like 25 and 25, something like that. So yeah, now we can have 3 per row, so we can see 6 cards at a time. That's actually pretty good. What is less good is the way that this inventory screen looks in general, but we'll worry about that a little bit later. For now, oh yeah, that's probably not good, having it anchored to the wrong thing there. Let's anchor this properly. And maybe we want this to just in general be a little bit smaller as well. So you want the grid that you can scroll? Yeah, exactly. I want to have a grid that you can scroll through, and that is like Unreal luckily has that just kind of built in with that, which is really, really sweet. This as well, probably just like make it like a little bit. Probably does need to come down to the same space as close. I'm kind of just splitting hairs here, to be honest with you, but this is pretty good. You can see like a bunch of your cards at the same time, and then when you open this up, like I can take out these cards, and then for some reason, I'm not able to open my inventory up again. That's something that we'll need to look into, but not right now. It's really kind of weird why it does that. Is it? Oh, hold on. I think I know why that is. I know why that is. That is because this is probably not a local variable. It is a local variable. Why? What? That's the return value. So... huh? I can open this up. It says no actors. That's fine. I open this up once. Now it just says no actors, but it doesn't actually. Yeah, this probably needs to return, doesn't it? Yeah, that probably is the issue. So we can do that. Yeah, we can open this up. Take some cards out. And now we have everything in our inventory. Okay, so the basics of the card inventory works. It's a return node in the branch. Yeah, so it doesn't return. That is indeed the issue. But we I'm quite happy with this. Like this, obviously, it doesn't do anything in here. If I really wanted to, like, I could make like a second screen that can display the card again with more details when you click on them in the inventory, so that the inventory itself doesn't do something. But I'm trying to like not let this game scope creep because it's a side project, for fuck's sake. It's just a fun little side project because I want to do something 2D. And now this is empty. And everything is in here. This is actually really satisfying to do, not gonna lie. We're gonna call it there for today. It's been about 3 hours, so I've been having a lot of fun in this one. We made a lot of progress, right? But when we started today, we had cards. We had, like, we could display cards. Kind of. We had the basis of it. And now we have, like, functioning movement between inventories. And we have, like, a rarity scale. We have an easy... at this point, I think what I'm going to do throughout the next couple of days, like while I'm working, I'm just going to like ChatGPT in a couple more images. And I'm just going to make some more card assets so that we can start like building up a library of cards. So that we have actually like something more interesting to look at as well. And then next time I'm going to improve the card slots as well, because right now you can see we have like the same card twice, and I think we should just merge this into one inventory slot which has like a quantity on it as well. I think that'll look better, that'll feel better. That will complicate the inventory code quite a bit. But I think that's fun. And then from there, I think we can start working on some like economy related stuff, which is just like adding a float value for money. And from there, we start to look into NPCs. And that's the one upside to moving back to Unreal, is I was kind of worried about doing like 2D navigation in Godot and having to figure out how that works. Don't have to worry about that in Unreal, because while this is 2D, well, actually it's not. It is just 3D, and if I put a nav mesh in here, like, I'm pretty sure that it will just work. So we just like do a nav mesh bounce volume. Like if I just put that in here, and like lower that down. Oh, this thing itself, that's actually okay, so maybe there's a little bit more to that. Because obviously, yeah, that's a fantastic point, because this doesn't have collision. Maybe I can give it collision. It's set to block all collision already, so it actually should be able to generate a nav mesh on it, but it's not. Yeah, I'll need to look into how to do 2D nav mesh stuff then. I thought this was going to be pretty straightforward, but it's not doing any like nav stuff. Because if I just put in a cube here now, like that will generate the hell out of a nav mesh, right? Not even. What the hell? Why is there no nav mesh being generated? I'm confused. That's kind of weird. Yeah, I don't understand what the issue is there, but I'm also not going to look into it right now. But we'll figure out something with the navigation, and that'll be fine, I'm sure. And then we can start. Like at that point, the game's mostly done. At that point, we just need some NPCs, which will need sprites, which I don't look forward to. And once we have NPCs that can walk, that can look at cards that we have, we need like a booster pack buying system, a basic economy system, which again is very, very simple, the way I'm going to implement that. So yeah, I think we're making good progress. I think next week we'll probably still be doing this. So we'll do one more stream about this on Thursday, and then we'll do next Tuesday and Thursday, and then the game will probably be finished. So it'll have been about like 30 some hours in total, but the Unreal portion of which would have been like about 12 of those hours. So like real game jam territory. Anyway, I was just watching your tutorial. I hope it's been useful. I'm going to call it a day now. I'll be back on Thursday. There's going to be a video tomorrow. I don't know what the video is going to be about, but it's going to be about something. I still need to render it and upload it, so I will be doing that tomorrow morning. For now, thanks everybody for watching, and see you later.